he would wake up laughing in his dreams. What more, he was a big boss behind the scenes, but he was sitting at the negotiation table bargaining with a group of peddlers and hawkers, arguing until his face turned red and his neck became thick. If this got out, wouldn't it make people laugh? At this point, the negotiations have come to the final highlight, the dispute over board seats. When facing a group of cunning and treacherous people, Vivi argued with reason and refused to give in, not losing an inch. Waffle, who originally wanted to control the other party, now frowned and wiped the sweat from his forehead from time to time. Crocodile seemed to be watching a unique drama, and sometimes couldn't help but applaud Vivi's wonderful speech. After several hours of heated debate, this negotiation that was enough to change the business landscape of the pirate world finally came to an end. Vivi, as the head of Baroque Tourism Development Company, took a group photo with Waffles, the representative of the Four Seas Business Alliance, in front of many reporters, recording this epic-making moment. Casino Royale top floor office. Uncle, I am such a failure. I only got 5 seats on the board of directors, Vivi said dejectedly with her head down as she stood in front of Crocodile with a sad face. Ha. What nonsense is that? Your performance today has far exceeded my expectations. It can simply be described as amazing. Crocodile laughed and rubbed Vivi's head. Really? Vivi looked up at Crocodile with some joy. I am not lying to you. I thought you were lucky to get 3 seats against these veterans, but I didn't expect you to get 5. You have to know that the role played by 3 or 4 board seats is vastly different from that of 5. Crocodile said. So you didn't think highly of me at the beginning? Vivi pouted when she heard that. How could that be? I have always thought you were a talented girl with great business talent. But after all, we were doing it for nothing. We were at a disadvantage in the negotiation, so that's why we thought so, Crocodile hastened to explain, fearing that he would anger the young lady again. HMPH. You just make up lies to fool me all day long. Vivi folded her arms and turned her head away, clearly not believing Crocodile's explanation. Bruh brew brew, bruh brew brew. Just then, the den mushy rang. Crocodile was immediately relieved. This call came at the perfect time. Judicial Island, on the bridge leading to the pier. Spandam cursed and dragged Nico Robin, who looked desperate, forward with a rope. A few dozen meters ahead is the small door leading out of the Judicial Island. Once Spandam takes Robin onto the warship, her chances of survival will be very slim. Navy in front, drive the boat quickly. I want to jump on it, Spandam shouted towards the front. Yes, sir, the Navy quickly agreed. Bang! At this moment, a bomb flew from nowhere and hit Spandam back, causing him to fall to the ground after somersaulting several times. Who is it? The nearby Navy searched in panic in the direction of the source of the explosive bomb, but there was no one here except the bare bridge surface. Then one explosive bomb after another kept coming, and each one could hit the naval soldier very accurately. It was not until a naval soldier searched for a long time with a telescope that he finally saw a figure standing proudly on the top of the Tower of Justice 1,000 meters away. Who on earth is that guy? How could he hit us accurately from such a long distance and with such strong winds? Many Navy officers exclaimed. Mr. Longnose. Nico Robin recognized who that person was at a glance. Even she didn't expect that Usopp had such amazing shooting skills. Tears of joy kept welling up in my eyes, and hope for life resurfaced in my heart. The surrounding Navy were constantly being hit and knocked down, losing their ability to move, but Spandam, the perverted man, was hit by such a powerful bomb, but he turned over with a somersault as if nothing had happened. Bastards, what are you doing? Kill him quickly, Spandam shouted in shock and anger. We tried it, but the bullet can't fly that far and we can't hit him at all, the Navy soldier explained hastily. Seeing this, Spandam knew that he had no way to deal with this sniper, so he rushed behind Nico Robin, grabbed her hair, lifted Robin up, and blocked her in front of him. Stop, or I will kill her immediately. Spandam pulled out a pistol from his waist, pointed it at Nico Robin temple and yelled. At this time, Frankie, who had just stepped on a landmine and was blown into the sea, also climbed onto the bridge. Seeing that Nico Robin had become Spandam hostage, he suddenly dared not act rashly. Ha 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 ha, Were you very happy just now? Did you think you could escape from my clutches? Nico Robin Spandam pressed his head tightly against the back of Robin's head and laughed wildly. Stop dreaming. You are destined to be my stepping stone for promotion and wealth. No one can save you. I can even kill you right now, Spandam said as he tore Nico Robin's hair and retreated step by step. Nick Robin's heart sank to the bottom again. She wished she could walk out of here alive. But the reality was always contrary to one's wishes. What did she do wrong? Why was God so cruel to her, depriving her of even the last hope of life? Tears welled up in his eyes, and Nick Robin cried and begged, "Save me, I don't want to die." "Shut up and follow me obediently," Spandam shouted angrily. Bing! But before he could finish his words, a gunshot suddenly rang in his ears. All the Navy officers present were stunned. Frankie, who was not far away, widened his eyes in disbelief. Nico Robin didn't know what was happening, but she felt that the hair that was pulled by Spandam was slowly loosening. Plop! The sound of someone falling came from behind. Nico Robin turned her head in surprise, and first saw an unprepossessing Navy man pointing a gun in her direction. Then he looked down and saw Spandam lying on the ground with his eyes wide open. There was a small hole on the side of his head, and blood was gushing out of it. It was obvious that he was not going to survive. What is going on? Nico Robin's mind was in a mess at this time, and she seemed to have completely lost the ability to think. "Captain Spandam!" the other soldiers exclaimed and pointed their guns at the unprepossessing Navy officer. "Who are you? Why did you kill Commander Spandam?" the sailors asked angrily. "Sorry, the gun went off accidentally," the Navy soldier who fired the shot said with a nonchalant smile. "Asshole. Can this be explained by an accidental discharge of a gun?" An officer approached the other man with a gun, pointed at his head and cursed. "Doesn't this explanation work? Then you all might as well die." The Navy officer suddenly stopped smiling and his expression turned cruel. "What?" The officer's eyes widened with anger, unable to believe that these were words spoken by a sailor. But then, the person in front of him suddenly disappeared from his sight. He only felt a pain in his chest, and the person who had just disappeared appeared again. But this time, they were face to face. "Have you ever seen the dance of swans?" the Navy asked with an evil look on his face. "Sir!" the surrounding soldiers shouted in panic again, because they saw that a black hand shaped like a bird head had already pierced into their leader's chest and penetrated from the other side of the body. "You! Who are you?" The officer looked down at his chest in disbelief and asked with difficulty. "He a dead man, so don't ask so many questions." The Navy officer calmly pulled his hand out of the officer's body and said coldly. The officer's body went limp and he knelt on the ground, then fell on his back. "Shoot! Kill him quickly. He is not one of ours." The other Navy soldiers finally woke up and started shooting at the man frantically. But the strange thing was that the man was able to easily dodge all the bullets shot at him just by dancing his body seemingly casually. Really like a dancing swan. While dodging, he continued to approach the surrounding naval soldiers. His two black hands, shaped like bird heads, were like the scythes of the god of death. Every time he got close to a naval soldier, he could easily pierce his body. The bridge on Judicial Island was filled with screams. It was like hell. "So strong, who is that guy? Why are the Navy members suddenly fighting among themselves?" Sanjay, standing under the Tower of Justice, was observing the situation on the bridge with a telescope. When he saw a sailor dancing and slaughtering his colleagues, the cigarette in his mouth fell to the ground. "Let me see." Zoro grabbed the telescope. "His ability to move quickly is very similar to CP9, Zoro said in a serious tone. "But as long as Robin can be saved, it doesn't matter who it is," Zoro said and threw the telescope back. "What do you mean it doesn't matter who it is, you brainless bastard? What if that person has bad intentions and kills all the Marines and then kidnaps Robin?" Sanji pointed at Zoro and said angrily. "Idiot!" Curly eyebrows. "Don't you see Frankie is not far away?" Zoro cursed back without giving in. In just about a minute, only 3 people were left on the Judicial Island bridge: Nico Robin, Frankie, and an unidentified brutal Marine. "Excuse me, who are you?" Nico Robin asked fearfully while kneeling among the corpses on the ground. "Saucy ignores Dana. Miss. All Sunday the mysterious Navy said in a hoarse voice that Nico Robin was very familiar with. Then he slapped his hands on his face, revealing Bentham funny face with smoky makeup. Mr. 2 Nico Robin couldn't help but exclaim. Are you okay? Mr. 0 asked me to save you. Bentham hurried over to untie the ropes on Nico Robin. It turns out he hasn't given up on me yet. Nico Robin covered his face with his hands and cried with joy. Are you an idiot? How could Mr. 0-chan give up his partner so easily? Bentham couldn't help but blame him when he heard it. Partner. Nick Robin chewed on these two words again and again in his heart, and the words that Crocodile said when he was talking on the phone that day appeared in his mind again. Trust your partners. So the partners he was talking about weren't just the Straw Hat Pirates, but also the Baroque Works. For 20 years, she was like a rat living in a sewer, hiding all the time and not daring to trust anyone, do everything to survive, just to get the truth. And today, she finally understood what Salon said before he died. One day, there will surely be a partner willing to protect you. At this moment, Nico Robin only felt that her heart was filled with a huge sense of happiness. It's nice to have a companion. Nicole Robin. Frankie also rushed to Nico Robin at this time. When he saw Bentham's true face, he was also stunned. He pointed at Bentham's nose and shouted aggressively, "This pervert didn't hurt you, did he? What, don't you feel ashamed when you call others perverts?" Upon hearing this, Bentham was furious and cursed at Frankie. Nick Robin couldn't help but burst into laughter when he heard the argument between the two. Since you are out of danger, my mission is accomplished. See you again if we are lucky enough. Bentham had no intention of arguing with the pervert who was running around in his underwear. When he heard Robin laughter, he straightened his face and said, "Thank you, Mr. 2. Thank him for me when you get back," Robin said. Bentham made an okay gesture, winked at Nico Robin, and stepped into the sky with the moon steps. Who was this strange guy? Frankie asked puzzledly. They are my partners too. Nico Robin smiled with narrowed eyes. They. Frankie frowned in confusion. Nico Robin didn't explain, and he didn't continue to ask. After all, everyone has their own secrets. About 1,000 meters above the judicial island, no one noticed that there was a golden ship floating quietly there. After climbing continuously, Bentham finally jumped onto the deck of the Ark. Proverbs. The woman is saved. Can we go back now? Enel asked expressionlessly without raising his head. There are still a lot of Navy around Judicial Island. We have to make sure she leaves safely. Bentham lay on the side of the ship, looking down with a telescope. TSK, what a hassle. Enel stretched impatiently. Not long after, Bentham noticed that the Straw Hat Pirates at the dock had been surrounded by a large group of Navy and the situation was very critical. Hey, Enel, it's your turn now. Quickly get rid of all those Navy soldiers surrounding them, Bentham shouted loudly. HMPH. Don't even think about it. My mission is to bring you here. Saving people is not within my job scope, let alone that bastard Rubberman group. Enel snorted coldly and refused decisively. Really not going to save him? You really can't help me? Hee. Then don't blame me. Bentham smiled sinisterly. Whatever you want, Enel said indifferently. That what you said, so I won't be polite. As soon as he finished speaking, Bentham slapped himself in the face, and another Enel appeared on the boat in an instant. You bastard Shimal, don't go too far. Change back to me now. Enel jumped up like a cat whose tail was stepped on, pointing at Bentham and cursing. Ha 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 ha, you said it casually yourself. Bentham put his hands on his hips and laughed up to the sky. Don't think I dare not beat you. Enel's forehead was bulging with veins, and he pointed the golden pestle at Bentham viciously. Relax. Relax. I am just borrowing your ability. Make sure you change back immediately after saving the person. You don't want to go back and get hit by Zero-chan fist because of this, right? Seeing that the long-eared guy was really angry, Bentham hurried to comfort him. When Enel heard the word Iron Fist, he seemed to recall something painful. After hesitating for a few seconds, he said reluctantly, "This is just the first time. It won't happen again." After getting permission, Bentham immediately started to discharge electricity on the boat happily, familiarizing himself with Enel moves. Enel, at such a long distance, How can we guarantee to hit every person accurately? I can't even see clearly." Bentham lay on the side of the ship and looked down. He was immediately in trouble. The distance was indeed a bit far. "HMPH. You won't be able to learn it even if I tell you. Just use the electromagnetic waves generated by lightning, attach your observation hockey to it, and spread it out as much as possible." Enel snorted coldly. "So that it." After hearing this, Bentham closed his eyes and began to comprehend. "Roar, I saw it." "Not only that, I can vaguely hear what they said." Not long after, Bentham suddenly shouted excitedly, "What? This perverted guy took me so long to comprehend this ability, but he only used it for a few minutes." Enel's face suddenly looked a little ugly. "It finally time to launch 10,000 thunders." Bentham waved the golden pestle in his hand, and the sky was suddenly covered with dark clouds, and countless thunders intertwined and flashed in the clouds. As the user of the thunder fruit, all he needs to do now is guide the lightning in the clouds to its target. A few breaths later, bolts of lightning poured down towards the direction of Judicial Island. The Straw Hat Pirates and the Marines who were fighting on the ground all had changed expressions. The Straw Hat Pirates have experienced the power of lightning, so even though they are afraid, they will not panic. The situation was different for the Navy surrounding them. Under this terrifying power, they could only flee in panic. From time to time, some sailors were struck by lightning and fell down with black smoke coming out of their bodies. However, Bentham is a fake after all, and the power of his lightning is far inferior to that of Enel. At most, he can only electrocute and stun the enemy. Zoro and Usopp stood back to back, staring solemnly at the thunder falling from the sky. "Is this the way he releases lightning?" Zoro said in a deep voice. "No. Could it be that Enel has chased us here? We are doomed now." Usopp also thought of that person, and his legs suddenly became weak and he began to shiver. But what surprised the two was that while the surrounding Navy officers were struck and fell to the ground one after another, only the two of them were fine and were still standing there. "If I remember correctly, that long-eared guy is now Crocodile's subordinate, right?" Zoro suddenly asked. "It seems that the case." "Then let leave with peace of mind. This guy shouldn't be an enemy." After saying that, Zoro strode towards the ship without even looking at the Navy who were still desperately dodging around him. "Hey, Zoro, slow down, wait for me. Be careful not to get struck by lightning." Usopp shouted in panic and followed. But after taking only 2 steps, a bolt of lightning hit Zoro accurately. "I told you to be careful!" Usopp screamed in horror. Zoro turned his head with a dark face and exhaled a puff of smoke. "I take back what I said just now." Then he fell to the ground. "I am sorry, I didn't mean to." Bentham realized that he had missed his aim and accidentally injured Zoro, so he bowed and apologized to Zoro from 1,000 meters above the ground on the ship. "Ha ha ha. What an idiot." Enel felt much happier when he saw this scene. After the two observed for a while, the Straw Hat Pirates finally escaped with the rescue of the Golden Mary. "Now the mission is finally completed, we can go back and report," Bentham said with a sigh of relief. "Hurry up and change back to your original appearance," Enel reminded with an unhappy look on his face. I know, what a stingy guy," Bentham muttered, slapped himself on the face again, and turned back into himself. Then he took out his Dendenmushi and made a call. "Hey, Zero-chan, the mission has been completed. Nico Robin and the Straw Hat Pirates have all escaped successfully," Bentham shouted loudly. By the way, he also reported the details of the operation to Crocodile. "Very good. Thank you for your hard work. You can find a city nearby to rest and wait. I will contact you again in a few days." A deep voice came from the other end of the phone. "Eden, Casino Royale top floor office. I have good news for you. The Straw Hat Pirates have successfully evacuated," Crocodile said to Vivi. "Really? That great." Vivi looked delighted after hearing this. Then she closed her eyes and clasped her hands together in front of her chest, as if praying for the Straw Hat Pirates. The Battle of Judicial Island is over, and Crocodile begins to think about his next plans. According to the plot, Red Hair is about to meet with Whitebeard and try to dissuade Whitebeard from recalling Ace, but is rejected by Whitebeard. Ace then tracked down Blackbeard, and after a fierce battle, Ace was defeated and captured. Blackbeard handed him over to the world government. Then Sengoku announced that he would publicly execute him at the Navy headquarters, and the Battle of Marineford officially began. Time is running out. There is less than a month left until the Battle of Marineford. Crocodile frowned in annoyance. The fighting power of Crocodile's subordinates is still too weak. The strongest two, Enel and Bonus, are at most at the level of the Flying Six in 2 years' time. He must subdue a few more powerful characters. CP9 must be dealt with, as this group of people will be the core members of Crocodile Intelligence Agency in the future. Next are the other 7 warlords of the sea. Gecko Moria fighting ability is a mystery. When he was young, he could fight Kaido head-on, but after being defeated, he was very weak. Even if the ability of the fruit can be used for impure world reincarnation, it will be useless if the remains of the deceased strong man cannot be found. It remains to be determined for the time being. There is also Tyrant Bear, whose fruit ability is simply amazing, but he is a member of the Revolutionary Army and has now been transformed by Vegapunk, making it very difficult to subdue him. Next is the Empress. Crocodile knows the key and timing to conquer her. Once this most beautiful woman wins over a man, she will devote herself to him wholeheartedly and is very reliable. As for Hawkeye, the world #1 swordsman, with strength that is not inferior to the 4 emperors, he is unruly and it is obviously impossible to take him as a younger brother. The only option is to cooperate with him. I don't know what agreement Crocodile reached with him in the comics. Sea Knight Jinbei is a good candidate because he values friendship and loyalty. He is dedicated to protecting the safety of Fishman Island and later joined Big Mom Army out of necessity. If Crocodile can demonstrate strong enough strength in the war at the top, it is not impossible to convince him to join. The rest are supernovas from the worst generation. Each of these people is an ambitious hungry wolves. Even if you accept them reluctantly, they will probably turn against you sooner or later. There is another person whose abilities Crocodile admires very much, and that person is Douglas Barrett, who is about to escape from Impel Down. When he was young, he fought Crocodile and it was said that the game ended in a draw. Later, he joined Roger Pirate Group because he was defeated by Roger, and he chose to join in order to continue to challenge Roger. Judging from the movie, his strength is probably comparable to Big Mom, the weakest of the 4 emperors. To defeat this person, you just need to always be stronger than him. Once you succeed, you will be able to immediately add a quasi-emperor level combat force. But we have to eat one bite at a time, and we have to start with the weakest CP9. CP9 should be in the process of escaping from Judicial Island now. Next, they will go to the Queen City of Spring to treat Rob Lucci injuries. That is the best place to subdue them if we wait for them to leave there and go to CP9's secret training base. It would be very difficult to find them in the vast ocean. When appropriate, their whereabouts can also be revealed to the world government. Only by making them lose trust in the world government within a short period of time will it be easier for Crocodile to take action against them. Crocodile had researched before and found out that it takes 5 days to sail from Eden to the city of the Queen of Spring. It's too tiring to fly there by myself, and I have to bring CP9 back, so I can only go there in this slowest way. After we come back, we have to consider exploiting Alabasta oil. It would be a waste to have so many treasures and not make good use of them. By then, we will develop fuel engines and build dozens or hundreds of armored ships to let the whole world see who is the real Navy. Vivi, help me call Jem, Mikita and Beb over. Crocodile instructed Vivi. The little girl picked up the phone obediently and started calling one by one. If he wants to go by boat, he certainly can't go alone. It is also very necessary to show CP9 the strength of the elites within the organization. Not long after, the 3 of them arrived at Crocodile office one after another. Going out to sea? Are we going to some fun place? Misita asked with surprise. It quite fun. It called the City of Flowers, so the scenery must be amazing. Crocodile replied, stroking his chin. So, are we on a mission? Jem asked. This time I am bringing you along mainly to meet a group of new companions. It is a relatively easy mission, I think. A new partner? Yes, a group of newcomers with great potential. Oh, by the way, Jem, I need you to arrange a boat for us to go out to sea, with sufficient personnel and food, and set off early tomorrow morning." Crocodile suddenly remembered this important matter. "Anything for a boat?" asked Jem. "Is the flagship of the giant crocodile pirates still there? I think it pretty good." "Understood. I will go prepare first." Jem took the order neatly and left. "Boss, how long are you going to be gone? If it too long, I will bring a few more sets of clothes," Misita asked in a soft voice. "About 10 days." "Okay, I will leave too." "Beb, do you have any other questions?" This fat man with a silly face didn't say a word since he came in, like a completely invisible person. "Boss, can you bring more food? My appetite has increased several times recently." Beb scratched the back of his head and said embarrassedly. However, Crocodile discovered that he now spoke much more fluently, and seemed to have completely bid farewell to his previous stuttering state, which might be closely related to the strengthening. "You can take as much as you want as long as the boat can hold it. Just tell Jem and tell him I said so." Crocodile couldn't help laughing at the silly fat man. "Eden, the weather at the pier is sunny and windy, suitable for sailing." "Eden, I am here. Just go and do what you want." Vivi helped Crocodile tidy up his clothes like a well-behaved little wife. "Don't work too hard. If you have any problems that you can't solve, go to Gardino and Bonus." Crocodile rubbed her head habitually. After taking his hand back, Crocodile saw the other party reluctant expression and felt that the little girl attitude towards him was becoming more and more strange. According to Crocodile current age, he could be her father. Crocodile treated her more like an elder doting on a younger person, without any other extra thoughts. Surely such a young and beautiful girl would not like an old man. Crocodile shook his head and immediately denied this ridiculous possibility. "Let go." Crocodile turned around and waved his hand casually, then boarded the ship with his men. Soon, a huge ship flying the flag of the Baroque Company slowly sailed away from the dock. Sea voyages are dull and tedious. Crocodile, who can't stand this boring life, has to use his trump card and teach the crew a brand new game: Landlord. Since there is no culture of farmers fighting landlords in this world, Crocodile had to change its name to Fighting Pirates, with 2 Navy men fighting 1 pirate. This new way of playing poker became an instant hit on the entire ship once it was launched, and all those who had nothing to do became addicted to it. The only 4 decks of playing cards on the ship were instantly upgraded to rare treasures. "Jem, are you an idiot? You and I are in the same group. Why are you betting on my cards?" Mikita yelled at Jem in dissatisfaction. "Don't panic. I have a good hand and I can definitely win." Jem stared at the cards in his hand, his head covered with lumps. 3-2K, how about it? Jem looked at the expressionless Crocodile cautiously. "I am sorry." Crocodile shook his head slightly. 3 and an 8. "I only have 1 card left." "Ha ha ha ha." Jem laughed proudly. "It too early for you to get complacent." Crocodile chuckled and shook his head. "Bomb, 1 on 10, game over. Stick your head over here." Why can't I win even once?" Jem said, covering his head with tears streaming down his cheeks. "I told you not to bet on my cards. Why didn't you listen?" With notes stuck all over her face, Mikita pulled Jem collar and shook it wildly with a ferocious look on her face. "Ha ha ha ha." Beb, who also had a bruise on his head, laughed foolishly at the 2 people actions. "Report to the boss. 3 pirate ships have been spotted 4 nautical miles to the right front, and they are heading towards us." At this moment, the lookout suddenly shouted, "How dare you, the bold pirate, to target our Baroque Company boss? Please wait a moment. I will go and destroy them all." Before Crocodile could speak, Jem stood up and spoke righteously. Then, without waiting for Crocodile to object, he disappeared onto the deck with a whoosh. "These pirates showed up at the perfect time. It really hurts when the boss hit me on the head. I am sorry, everyone." Jem was delighted. He finally found an excuse to escape the disaster. "The Berserk Pirates, flagship." "Captain, someone is flying towards us." "He seems to be from that merchant ship." A pirate holding a telescope said in panic. "What? Let me see." The tall and thin man wearing a captain hat snatched the telescope. "What are you afraid of? There's only one person on the other side. Maybe he here to beg for mercy," the captain said with disdain. "The berserker pirates, I remember them being a very brutal bunch. Why don't we give them a welcome gift first?" As they got closer, Jem, a bounty hunter, could tell the origins of this pirate group at a glance. "Human-shaped missile," Jem exclaimed, and the explosion sound under his feet suddenly intensified. The speed suddenly increased several times, and he rushed towards the pirate ship at high speed like a meteor. "Why is it speeding up?" The pirate captain realized that the person coming might have bad intentions. "Shoot quickly and kill him." The pirates raised their guns and fired hastily, but the enemy was able to dodge flexibly while moving at high speed, so they couldn't hit them at all. "It over." The pirate captain felt a chill in his heart. Then a humanoid object covered in flames was seen diving straight into the pirate ship on the right side of the flagship. There was a loud bang and the pirates on the other two ships quickly lay down to avoid the debris from the explosion. When the smoke cleared, the pirate captain stood up and looked at the floating hull and human remains on the sea. He was so angry that his whole body trembled. "What on earth is going on? How is it? Are you satisfied with the gift I gave you?" The pirates on the flagship looked up hastily and found a dark-skinned man with an afro standing on their own observation deck. "Who the hell are you? Why do you kill so many people so casually?" the pirate captain shouted harshly. "The berserker pirates are a group of pirates that specialize in robbing merchant ships. They take women aboard whenever they see them, and throw them into the sea when they are done playing with them. They never leave any men alive, and they don't even let children go. Am I right, Captain Billis? The bounty is 153 million Baileys." "It really a compliment to say that you are a bunch of scum," Jem said in a cold tone. You are slandering me." "It is true that we robbed merchant ships, but we never hurt innocent people," Billis argued with a red face. "HMPH. Don't use such nonsense to fool people." "Baroque Works knows all your information clearly," Jem snorted coldly. "Baroque Works." Billis' expression changed. "It seems that today matter cannot be resolved peacefully. I originally thought that you were quite capable and wanted to recruit you as my subordinate, but since you are a member of that organization, you should leave your life behind today. Baroque Works and I have a deep blood feud." As Billis spoke, he picked up a huge axe standing on the side of the ship. After narrowing his sinister and slender eyes, a black gas emerged from his arm and directly wrapped around the axe. "Hey, young man. Don't think that you can be fearless on the sea after eating a devil fruit. There are powers in this world that are more terrifying than devil fruits," Billis said with a grin. "You have such strength, but you don't go to the New World to compete, but hide in the first half of the Grand Line to slaughter ordinary people without weapons. Trash like you don't deserve to be called a human being." When Jem saw Billis display his armed color domineering, he was not surprised at all. But his tone became even colder and chilling. "Ha ha ha ha, I am a very self-aware person. In a place like the New World, there are countless strong people and monsters everywhere. If you are not careful, you can lose your life. And in the first half of the Grand Line, which is called Paradise, there are money and beauties everywhere. I can get them with just a flick of my finger. Why should I go to the New World and do something thankless? What more, the weak should be dominated by the strong. Right, as long as I am happy, I can do whatever I want, even if I slaughter them like killing pigs and dogs. What does it have to do with them?" Billis said with a crazy laugh. "I don't think I am a good person, but your words really make me so angry that I can't suppress it and it bursting out." Jem glared at Billis, and there were constant bangs from his body. "Isn't it just Armament Hockey who told you that I can't do it?" Jem was furious at this moment. He wrapped his arms around Armament Hockey and flashed to the top of Billis' head. Die! An explosive fist blasted over. What? Billis was shocked. He didn't expect that the other party also had the ability to restrain the devil fruit. He raised his axe and attacked without warning. The punch contained Jem's endless anger, his tyrannical strength and the violent effect of the explosion fruit, and made a loud bang the moment it came into contact with Billis' axe. The resulting shockwave blew all the pirates on the deck away into the sea. Under his attack, Billis also smashed through the deck and fell into the cabin below. After the successful attack, Jem did not relax at all. He stood at the edge of the hole on the deck and carefully observed the movements below. He knew that the opponent had not suffered much damage just now. Sure enough, not long after, a black shadow shot out from below and leaped directly into the air. Jem looked up and saw that the originally tall and thin Billis had now become muscular and turned into an incredibly strong man. His scarlet eyes radiated a bloodthirsty light, and he shouted, "Don't underestimate me, kid." "Take my axe and see." Jem watched the other party powerful movements, but he did not panic at all. Just as the giant axe was about to approach, Jem simply twisted his body lightly and dodged at the critical moment. Billis hurriedly changed his tactics and used the axe to cut horizontally. Jem dodged again with another light leap back. Billis was immediately furious and swung his axe vigorously, but he could not touch Jem at all. He was like a butterfly, dancing between the bloodthirsty and deadly blades of Bilris. "Is jumping around like a ballless woman your real ability? Do you dare to confront me like a man?" Billis sneered angrily. "Okay, I already know your strength, now get ready to go on your journey with peace of mind." Jem pronounced Billis' fate expressionlessly. "Come on, you curly-haired boy who only knows how to talk." Billis raised his axe and rushed towards Jem again. Shave exploding finger gun. As soon as Jem finished speaking, Billis felt a flash before his eyes, and the other party came to him. Then his chest felt like it was stung by countless bees, and there was a burst of stinging pain. Just as he was about to counterattack, the opponent flashed and was more than 10 meters away. Billis looked down and saw dozens of tiny holes on his muscular chest, bleeding continuously. "Ha ha ha ha. I am a violent warrior who ate the violent fruit. Do you think you can defeat me with just a few minor injuries? How naive." Billis laughed nonchalantly with his head raised. "Ha ha, is that so? Then try this again." Jem sneered, slowly raised his hand, rubbed his thumb and middle finger lightly, and snapped his fingers crisply. At the moment the sound was heard, a series of dense explosions like firecrackers suddenly sounded on Billis' chest. Broken, 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 broken. Billis' whole body was shaking violently and he kept screaming. Countless blood mist and pieces of flesh exploded on his body, spraying all over the sky. Jem explosive finger gun move is to send the explosive factor of the explosion fruit directly into the opponent body through the finger gun. When the explosive factor is detonated by this ability, the flesh, blood and internal organs in the victim body will all be shattered in the explosions. Billis fell to his knees on the ground at this time, and his condition could only be described as horrible. Even though his defense was exaggerated in his violent state, he was unable to defend against the explosion from inside his body. The front of his chest had exploded completely, with his ribs sticking out randomly, exposing his broken internal organs, and blood was flowing onto the ground like crazy. If someone was physically weaker, he might have died instantly in this explosion, but now he wanted to die, but at the same time he didn't want to die. "I want to die because it is extremely terrifying to watch my life slip away bit by bit. Moreover, this devastating trauma is even more severe than the cruelest punishment in the world, and the pain it brings is simply unimaginable." The reason he doesn't want to die is that in his violent state, his vitality is extremely strong and he also has super recovery ability. "Let me go, please. Please." Due to excessive blood loss, Billis' consciousness was a little unclear. Every time he spoke a word, large mouthfuls of blood gushed out of his mouth. However, the human instinct for survival directed him to beg for mercy from Jem. Pain, despair. Have those who were tortured to death by you ever begged you for help now? Do you understand how they felt at that time? Jem asked in a tone full of hatred. "If you want to repent, go to the depths of the sea and find the souls of those innocent people who died tragically, kneel down and beg for mercy." After saying this, Jem squatted down and put his hands on the deck. Soon after, he stood up and looked into the distance. The pirates on the other pirate ship, seeing that their captain was powerless to fight back against this mysterious man, quickly turned around and fled far away. There were still some survivors floating on the sea who had just fallen into the sea. "None of these rubbish will survive," Jem said, gritting his teeth. Then he walked to the main gun at the bow of the ship, picked up the shells on the rack, and threw them at the pirates, who fell into the water one by one. Suddenly, screams, pleas for mercy, and explosions filled the sea. Only after Jem had circled the ship again and could no longer see any pirates on the sea did he kick off and chase after the pirate ship that had just escaped. Just after flying away from the flagship, Jem snapped his fingers again, and the pirate ship instantly turned into ashes and turned into countless pieces. The ship that had escaped earlier was also caught up by him soon after and suffered the same fate. Jem, come and play cards. Beb is even dumber than you. I am about to collapse. Seeing Jem coming back, Misita hurriedly called out to him. Which pirate group took you so long? Are there any powerful people among them? Crocodile asked without even looking up from the cards in his hand. No, there is strength, but not much. The berserker pirates are just a bunch of scum who specialize in robbing merchant ships and torturing and killing ordinary people, Jem said absent-mindedly. Crocodile gave him a strange look, then immediately understood what Jem was thinking. This time when you go back, you will make a special list of those pirate groups that have committed crimes and are not doing their job, and send it to several levels except for the senior agents. From now on, the work of cleaning up these garbage will also be included in the promotion assessment. This matter will be your special responsibility. For those pirates who like to kill ordinary people, no matter how high the bounty is, they can be executed directly. The rest of the pirates will be interrogated separately after being captured. If anyone is found to have intentionally harmed ordinary people or raped women, they will also be executed. The rest will be sent back to their home countries to serve as laborers and undergo labor reform. The minimum sentence will be 3 years, depending on the severity of the crime. Crocodile, with a cigar in his mouth and a card in his hand, spoke seemingly casually, but it made Jem tremble with excitement. His family was killed by pirates, but the Navy, who had placed high hopes on him, only arrived late after the pirates had left, pretended to comfort them and then left. Therefore, Jem became a bounty hunter when he grew up, until he joined the Baroque agency. He didn't have enough strength before, but now he is strong enough to become a nightmare for those sea garbage. Crocodile command finally allowed him to spread his wings and fly, fulfilling his long-cherished wish. Boss, please rest assured, I will not let any guilty person go, even at the cost of my life. Jem clenched his fists and assured in the most determined tone. However, what Crocodile didn't know was that the order he casually issued would create a pirate killer a few years later. Explosives' reputation is even compared by many to that of Navy Admiral Akenio. Santa Pobla, the city of the Queen of Gardens. Thank you all for taking good care of me these days. Rob Lucci shook the hand of a doctor with a huge head and thanked him sincerely. It is indeed very rare to hear such humane words from this cold-blooded killer. Today is the day he is discharged from the hospital. All members of CP9 have come to celebrate for him. Waidu and Dal are jumping and shouting with joy. Ha ha ha. Don't be so polite. You paid the money and we paid for our medical skills. We each get what we need. But then again, I have never seen anyone with such a strong recovery ability as yours. I really wish I could let you stay for a few more days so that I can study your body structure further. The big-headed doctor laughed and said, his eyes scanning Lucci repeatedly without any concealment. We still have things to do, so we won't bother you anymore. Lucci's face froze, and he quickly found an excuse to get away. The doctors in this hospital not only look weird, but their behaviors and personalities are even weirder. He doesn't want to stay here for even a minute longer. To celebrate Lucci's recovery and discharge from the hospital, I suggest that we go to the Garden Hotel for a big meal together. We have made a lot of money performing on the streets these days. Chababal suddenly spoke shortly after everyone left the hospital. Street performance. Lucci stopped and glanced at everyone with a cold look. Paku and Calitha showed awkward smiles on their faces. Bruno had a blank expression on his face, but the cold sweat on his forehead revealed his inner nervousness. You bastard owl. I told you that performing is a secret and Lucci can't know about it. Why can't you control your mouth? Is this zipper just for decoration? Gabra was so angry that he pulled the owl mouth and roared. I let it slip by accident. said the owl innocently. Please don't blame him, Lucci. It was my idea to perform for money, and I will bear the responsibility. The lion Weik consciously stood in front of the owl and said with a heavy expression, seppuku. He then pulled out a dagger from his bosom and stabbed himself without saying a word. Iron block. After a crisp sound of ding, he was not hurt at all. What a pity. I can't die, Weik said with regret. Lucci's expression remained unchanged, looking at his teammates working hard at joking around. His heart, as cold as ice that had been frozen for thousands of years, showed signs of melting. These guys endured such humiliation for him. There was even more of a heavy feeling in his heart, which made his throat feel a little tight. From now on, I will never let anyone fall into such a humiliating situation again. Luffy gritted his teeth, clenched his fists tightly, and swore secretly in his heart. After a moment, Lucci calmed down and exhaled deeply. You just talked about where you were going to have a big meal, Luffy suddenly asked in a calm tone. The people around were stunned and the scene became quiet and weird. The expected scene of Lucci getting furious upon learning that they had done such a shameful thing did not occur. Well, it's the largest garden hotel in this city. I have passed by there several times. The steak there looks really good. At this moment, Weik, who was the most shameless, suddenly spoke up and broke the awkward atmosphere. The desserts inside are also very delicately designed and look really appetizing. Khalifa also quickly responded. My saliva is flowing down. Chirping, the owl unzipped its mouth and saliva flowed down. The words of several people made Lucci feel a little sad. What are you waiting for? Lead the way. Upon hearing these words, these cold-blooded killers immediately became like a group of children, happily surrounding Lucci and walking towards the hotel. Many people on the street recognized the people who had performed on the street and greeted them enthusiastically. A little boy ran up to Kaku and asked innocently, Uncle Longnose, are you going to play on the slide today? There were too many people yesterday and it was not my turn. Kaku scratched his head awkwardly and laughed. Ha, sorry, I guess not. Uncle still has important things to do. Okay then, goodbye, Uncle. The little boy had no choice but to follow his mother away with a look of regret on his face, and would look back from time to time. The few of them tacitly agreed not to discuss the matter anymore and continued to move towards their destination. Oh no, pirates are coming, run. Where is the security team? There was sudden chaos at the other end of the street, with many city residents fleeing in panic. The breathing of the CP9 members who were originally laughing suddenly stagnated. Alas, I thought I could enjoy a few more days of quiet time, Khalifa said with a sigh. Lucci continued to move forward without any expression. Since he did not stop, there was naturally no reason for others to stop. Soon, dozens of pirates appeared on the street. Hurry up and give me all the money, or I will kill you all. We are the famous Candy Pirates. If you don't want to die, just cooperate with us. Where the money? You'd better take it out quickly, or I will have to search you myself. A pirate with an exaggerated look, unshaven beard and two huge candies tied to his head, was holding a wine bottle in one hand and holding a knife in the other hand against the necks of a mother and daughter who were kneeling on the ground and crying, and he was grinning obscenely. Please let us go. We were in a hurry to leave today and we really don't have any money on us. The woman begged and cried. Since you are not honest, then I will not be honest either. The pirate threw the bottle of wine casually and grabbed the woman. At this moment, the pirate suddenly felt a black screen in front of his eyes, and his head fell heavily to the ground as if hit by a bull, and then was stepped on by a big foot wearing leather shoes, unable to move. At the same time, other pirates on the street were also quickly cleaned up by several nimble men with lightning speed. The residents of the city were shocked to realize that they were the circus troupe that had been performing in the city for the past few days. They had never expected them to be so amazing. Well done. Yes, just beat these pirates like this, bring them all to justice and hand them over to the Navy. There are still people on the pirate ship. Don't let them escape. Seeing these evil pirates being defeated so easily by the seemingly harmless circus troupe, people cheered loudly. When Bruno learned that there were still some remnants of the pirates, he directly used the power of the Dorador fruit to board the pirate ship, and soon wiped out all the pirates on the ship. The leader of the Candy Pirates knew that he had met a tough guy this time, so he quickly cried to Lucci and begged for mercy, saying that they were just robbing money and had never killed civilians. Since you chose to be a thief, you should have been prepared to die on the streets. No matter how you try to argue, it can't change the fact that you are guilty. Death is your only destination. Rob Lucci's tone was emotionless. In his eyes, life and death seemed to be just ordinary things like eating and drinking. Wait. Wait, don't kill me. I will give you all the treasures. The captain of the Candy Pirates had already understood the intention behind Lucci's words and began to struggle desperately. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't move his head at all. Lucci didn't give him any more chances and stepped hard with his right foot on the opponent's head. The huge head shattered like a watermelon under a tremendous force, and red and white things splattered all over the ground. He stomped on that pirate head, someone exclaimed, trembling. Is that white stuff the brainiac? Someone couldn't help but vomit after seeing this extremely brutal act. This man is a monster. Even if you want to kill the pirates, there's no need to use such a cruel method, right? The people who were originally cheering for CP9 good deeds all changed their expressions when they saw this scene. Some people even started to blame them. Lucci retracted his foot as if he had just stepped on a cockroach to death. No matter what he does, he never cares about other people's opinions, let alone the common people who know nothing. It seems like we can't stay in this city any longer, Kiku said casually. They are a group of cold-blooded assassins wandering in the night, pursuing the dark justice of their leader Rob Lucci. I am used to this kind of scene and don't feel uncomfortable at all. However, their excessive justice is not without support. What's wrong with killing these evil pirates? They are helping us. Hasn't it true that few of our relatives and friends have been killed by pirates in recent years? Why do we still need to speak up for the pirates at a time like this? What should we do if they don't kill these pirates and wait for them to recover and come back here for revenge? The mother and daughter who were just held hostage by the pirates walked up to the CP9 members with tears in their eyes and bowed to express their gratitude. Thank you. The little girl took out a beautiful flower from behind on her face, handed it to Khalifa and said in a baby voice, "Sister, you are so beautiful, this flower is for you." Khalifa, who had never encountered such a situation before, trembled all over. Her mind went blank and she stood there in a daze, not knowing what to do for a moment. Take it, Khalifa, what are you thinking about? Gabra was even more anxious than her, and urged her with sweat on his forehead. If you don't accept it, I will have to commit seppuku to apologize. Wudori poked Khalifa back anxiously. Take it, Zababa. The owl unzipped its beak again. Khalifa finally came to her senses, bent down with an unnatural expression, pushed the hair hanging on her forehead behind her ears, and reached out to take the flowers from the girl's hand. It smells very good, thank you. I like it very much, Khalifa said as she lowered her head and sniffed the flowers in her hand. Seeing this, Gabra, Iquandao couldn't help but cheer as if they had received some supreme reward. Don't be too happy yet. I think we are in trouble. Bruno, who was still standing on the pirate ship, suddenly shouted to everyone in a serious tone. What the matter? Lucci asked. It's the Navy. There are 3 ships, all admiral level, Bruno said succinctly. Upon hearing this, several people immediately put away their smiles and their expressions became serious. Since our retreat is blocked, we have no choice but to fight to the death, Rob Lucci said calmly. But Lucci, your body, Kiku said hurriedly. It okay, I have basically recovered. Lucci raised his hand to stop Kiku from speaking. Faced with 3 generals, we need to come up with a countermeasure. Just as they were nervously discussing their next response strategy, in a coffee shop a few dozen meters away from them, several people were leisurely sipping the coffee in their hands and observing them leisurely through the window. Boss, are they the new partners you mentioned? They don't look that good, Misada muttered while stirring the coffee in the cup. Except for the man who can open the door in the air, there is nothing else that stands out. Is such a group of extremely mediocre people worth the boss' effort to come here in person? Jem asked in confusion. Beb, What do you think? Crocodile exhaled a puff of smoke and looked at the fat man sitting quietly beside him. The boss values potential more. Beb frowned and took a long time before these few words came out of his mouth. Ha 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 ha. I didn't realize you were so wise and foolish. You have made progress. Not bad. Crocodile pointed at Beb with the hand holding the cigar and laughed. Beb scratched the back of his head a little embarrassedly and grinned. At this moment, 3 naval warships sailed into the dock, and a large number of Navy soldiers poured down from the ships and surrounded the CP-9 members. This group of Navy men arrived extremely quickly. After we revealed the intelligence to them, it only took them half a day to get here, Crocodile said, glancing at the clock in the cafe. Wow, TSK, 1 lieutenant general and 2 major generals. What a big deal. These people must be of extraordinary status, Misada exclaimed. Haha. CP-9 is an intelligence agency directly under the world government. These guys have a lot of confidential information about the world government, Crocodile explained with a chuckle. This lineup of the Navy is a powerful force. These people know they can't win, but they don't run away. They are really stupid, Jem said with some disdain. Yeah, it won't be too late to fight back once you become stronger, Misada agreed. What do you know? If you want to become a truly strong person, you must not retreat in the face of even the most powerful enemy. Only by constantly fighting with people who are stronger than you can you break through your own limits and reach a higher level. That's why I came all the way here to find them. Crocodile became furious when he heard what the two said and shouted angrily, "Sorry, boss, we were wrong." The 2 men hurriedly stood up with pale faces and bowed their heads to admit their mistakes. Soon after, the fighting near the dock also became intense. Lucci, in leopard form, had wounds and blood all over his head and face, and he was gasping for breath. Kaku, who transformed into a giraffe, could only hold on tightly against a major general with a knife, and there were several knife wounds on his body that were deep enough to see the bone. Gabra and Bruno teamed up to block a major general. From time to time, one of them was knocked away. Then he got up in a mess and continued to fight. Khalifa and Dauman were besieged by many Navy soldiers and fought fiercely, with bruises all over their bodies. Rob Lucci, you assassinated your superior and caused the destruction of Judicial Island after being defeated by the Straw Hat Pirates. You have disgraced the world government. Give up resistance. I will let you die with dignity, the Vice Admiral said grimly. Rodman, we didn't kill Spandam. If you want to kill him, just come on. There's no need to come up with such a lame excuse. The word give up has never appeared in my dictionary. If you want me to die, then show me some more skills. 6 King Spears. Rob Lucci roared, unwilling to be outdone, and rushed forward again. It useless. In front of hockey, low-end physical skills like 6 styles can't even break my defense. The lieutenant general known as Rodman had a blank expression on his face and let Lucci hit his body. Then he punched back and knocked Lucci away. The opponent fist seemed to be wrapped in a strange energy, and every time it hit him, he felt a sharp pain deep in his bones. What should I do? I can't hurt him at all. If it were that person, what would he do in this situation? Lucci lay on the ground with his mind racing, trying to find the opponent's weakness, but it was of no avail. He couldn't help but think of the young man who had defeated him in desperate situation not long ago. We have also received news that CP-9 is meeting with a powerful mysterious organization in Santa Pobla, trying to sell confidential information to the world government. Tell me the information about that mysterious organization. Considering that you have made many contributions over the years, perhaps I can plead with the government on your behalf. Lieutenant General Rodman spoke again, but said something that puzzled him. What mysterious organization? I don't understand what you are talking about. Lucci tried hard to stand up, but he found that his body, which had just recovered, had multiple fractures again. The severe pain all over his body made it impossible for him to complete such a simple action. He could only sit on the ground, frowning and asking in confusion. Since you refuse to tell me, then go to hell, Lieutenant General Rodman said with great hostility, and then he leaped towards Lucci using the moon step. Is this the end? I really am unwilling to accept this. Luffy closed his eyes as if he accepted his fate. Excuse me, Are you looking for some mysterious organization at this moment? A lazy male voice suddenly sounded not far away. Who is it? Rodman stopped and turned to look when he heard the voice. I saw three people with very mismatched body proportions walking slowly towards the battlefield side by side. On the far left is a young and beautiful blonde woman wearing cool and hot suspender-heated pants, which make her long, white legs look particularly dazzling. In the middle is a dark-skinned man with afro. In such hot weather, he is still tightly wrapped in a long brown leather jacket, which looks a little abnormal. On the far right is a very tall and fat man, carrying a mace on his shoulder that is almost as thick as an adult body, and his thick, plump lips are extremely eye-catching. I heard that you are looking for some mysterious organization, and we happen to be a member of the mysterious organization. I wonder if we are the people you are looking for. The man with the afro spoke again. Rob Lucci? This is the mysterious organization that wants to contact you. What else do you have to say? Rodman shouted coldly at Lucci. I will say it again. I don't know anything about this mysterious organization. Lucci stared at the trio, as if he wanted to find some clues from them. HMPH, which organization do you guys belong to? What is your purpose in colluding with CP9? If you tell me the truth, I can let you suffer less physical pain. Seeing that Lucci refused to tell the truth, Rodman turned to the trio and asked, I can tell you everything you want to know, but the prerequisite is that you have to defeat us. Jem said casually. Haha, very good. I like people who won't cry until they see the coffin. I hope you can give me some surprises and not be as useless as these trash. Rodman sneered, his eyes swept across the battlefield, and his fists clenched with crackling sounds. At this time, except Kaku, no one in CP9 could stand. Khalifa, Bruno and Gabra had even been put in sea-stone handcuffs. Even Kaku had numerous knife wounds all over his body, so it was only a matter of time before he fell. Jem, can you please let me deal with this? Lieutenant General Beb said, scratching his head embarrassedly. It was the first time that Jem saw this honest fat man volunteer to fight, and he felt very strange. I want to fight him too. This guy seems to be pretty strong. Misita also spoke at this time. Let Beb come. It a rare occasion that he takes the initiative to speak. This time, Jem did not stand on the side of his old partner. Well, since you said so, Michita said with some regret. But in her heart she was mourning for the lieutenant general. She had sparred with Beb privately many times. This guy invincible strength, coupled with his even more abnormally strong physique after being strengthened by his boss, made it impossible for her to defeat him. He had to be careful to dodge the opponent's sea-stone mace that weighed several tons. If someone is touched by that thing, especially someone with special abilities, the worst-case scenario is that they will suffer broken bones and tendons, or even die. How dare these bastards look down on me like that? Rodman was furious when he saw the three men discussing who would fight him. Lieutenant General Rodman, there's no need for you to take action against these scumbags who came out of nowhere. I can handle them all by myself. At this time, a colonel with a round head, a huge chin and a big afro suddenly appeared in the crowd and volunteered. Remember to hit harder, Colonel Gatu. Rodman glanced at the other party and said, as you wish, Lieutenant General, I will let them see the power of the bin fruit. Colonel Bin said with a grin. Bin fruit, can the body produce edible bins? Beb asked with a confused look on his face as he walked towards the other party. Bagalu, you can't produce and you can't eat, but your body can become like beans. Colonel Dautu was obviously very angry at Beb's seemingly stupid question, and he jumped up and cursed. You can't eat it. Baby's face was full of regret. Eat, eat, eat. If you want to eat, I will let you eat enough. Dautu attacked. Colonel Dautu roared, and his body suddenly turned into countless golf ball-sized balls, shooting towards Beb at an extremely fast speed. Beb looked at the bullets coming at him like bullets, but continued walking forward as if nothing had happened, as if he had not seen them at all, without even lifting his eyelids. I succeeded. Colonel Dautu couldn't help but feel happy when he saw that the other party was so stupid as to not dodge. But the next scene left him dumbfounded. I saw countless balls hitting the fat man, as if hitting a solid wall. They bounced off immediately after contact, but the guy didn't react at all. How is this possible? Something must have gone wrong. Colonel Datu rubbed his eyes. If the small one doesn't work, then let's try the big one. Colonel Datu, who didn't believe in evil, used his ability again, and this time even his big round head rushed up. Go to hell. However, the expected scene of the head hitting the soft body and the opponent flying backwards with a scream of pain did not occur. Just as Colonel Datu was about to approach the fat man body, his eyes suddenly went dark. He was horrified to feel that his head seemed to be being tightly grasped by a big hand. If beans cannot be eaten, there is no need for them to exist. A simple and deep voice came to Colonel Datu's ears. However, to Colonel Datu, these words sounded like the judgment of a demon, and an unprecedented sense of fear burst out from the bottom of his heart. Wait a minute. As everyone looked on in astonishment, the fat man with an unprepossessing appearance slammed his head in his left hand to the ground. There was a dull bang and the head was pushed directly into his chest by him. With Colonel Datu's head as the center, the land within a radius of 10 meters sank under the impact of this huge force, raising a large amount of dust. Beb raised his hand and stood up, without even looking at Colonel Datu, whose eyes were rolled back in the pit, and continued walking towards Rodman. Only then did Lieutenant General Rodman finally face the enemy in front of him. He turned his body towards him, staring at the fat man who was approaching him step by step in an orderly manner. Who exactly is this power? Rob Lucci was shocked. Even though he had been engaged in intelligence work for many years, he could not find any information about this group of people in his mind. Could it be that these aggressive guys are here to save us? Bruno, with his hands handcuffed behind his back, asked in confusion. Maybe they are here to kill us, Zababa. The owl, who was pinned to the ground by the Navy, replied. Looks very strong, Khalifa said. As long as we can kill these damn Navy men, it doesn't matter who they are. Gabra, who was lying on the ground and was seriously injured, said harshly. Shut up and don't talk. The Navy guarding them shouted. Now, no one should disturb us too. Beb stopped 5 or 6 meters away from Rodman. I admit that you are qualified to fight me. However, challenging the authority of a Vice Admiral of the Navy headquarters will have serious consequences. Are you ready to bear them? Rodman looked at the fat man in front of him with a cruel smile on his face. I am ready. Can we start? Beb answered honestly. Seeing that the other party didn't seem to take his words to heart, Rodman couldn't help but get furious. Rodman wanted to kill the fat man in front of him with one blow. At such a close distance, the powerful impact brought by Shave's super-fast speed, coupled with his own strength, caused extremely high damage, and most people could not react at all. The fist wrapped in armed color domineering instantly hit the opponent. But what Rodman didn't expect was that the opponent raised his chubby left fist to meet him at the last moment. When the two fists collided, there was a loud bang. What, he actually used his pure body to block my fist full of domineering power? Rodman was immediately shocked. However, this was not the end. After the two fists made contact, he felt a huge force rushing into his body. His body began to retreat rapidly, and he retreated more than 10 steps before stopping. Looking at the fat man again, he was still standing there as if nothing had happened. Please use a little more strength. You can't beat me like this, Babu said naively. Asshole, don't underestimate me, Rodman shouted angrily and rushed over again. The two men fists collided again, creating a shockwave and raising a large amount of dust. This time, Beb took a step back, and Rodman retreated another 10 meters. Who the hell is this guy? Lieutenant General Rodman is no match for him. With a seemingly casual punch, he was able to push Lieutenant General Rodman back more than 10 meters. And it didn't look like he was using his full strength at all. What a terrifying power! Didn't you notice that Lieutenant General Rodman used his hockey, while this guy fist was completely bald? This guy looks stupid, but when Lieutenant General Rodman approached him with a shaving gun at such a close distance, he was able to react. The surrounding Navy, both officers and soldiers, were shocked by the fighting power displayed by Beb. It's rare to meet such a strong opponent like you. In that case, I have to show off my real skills, Rodman said, shaking his numb arms. I have always been ashamed to show this form in front of others, but now I will let you experience how terrifying it is." Rodman spoke in a cold tone, and then his body began to swell wildly, and dense black hair appeared on his body. In just 1 or 2 breaths, a 5 or 6 meter tall, extremely majestic silverback gorilla appeared in front of everyone. Lieutenant General Rodman turned into a gorilla, and pounded his chest frantically with his huge fists, making a deafening roar. It appears Lieutenant General Rodman's strongest form, the silverback gorilla, known as the king of the jungle, can tear tigers and leopards apart with his bare hands. This fat guy is finished. Once Lieutenant General Rodman transforms, no opponent has ever been able to escape alive. Go, Lieutenant General Rodman, kill this arrogant guy in one fell swoop. When the sailors saw Rodman transformation, they were immediately excited and shouted excitedly, "What a big monkey!" A drop of cold sweat ran down Bibu's forehead and he exclaimed in surprise, "It a gorilla? A gorilla, not a monkey. Are you an idiot?" Beb words made Rodman anger reach its peak in an instant. He jumped high in anger, clenched his fists, which were twice as big as an adult head, and smashed towards Beb with domineering aura. Beb's eyes narrowed and his expression became serious. He took a step back, and his left fist was instantly filled with domineering power. He pulled it back like a bow, and then swung it out with force. He also let out a loud shout of "Ha!" The 2 fists collided again, and after the domineering collision, there was a loud bang, and countless black and purple lights burst out. This time Rodman was not knocked back. Instead, the ground under Beb's feet completely collapsed under this blow, and he sank more than half a meter. Rodman took advantage of the situation and continued to punch Beb one after another. Beb was equally unwilling to be outdone. He dodged while using his left hand to fight back, showing an agility that was extremely inconsistent with his body shape. Rodman's heavy punches occasionally hit him on the body and face, but this guy didn't even frown, and every attack of his would make Rodman grimace in pain. After the 2 fought for dozens of rounds, Rodman finally couldn't bear it anymore and jumped back hard. "Damn it, you bastard, don't you feel pain?" Rodman glared at the fat man whose clothes were just a little messy, and asked while gasping for breath. "Ha ha, because it doesn't hurt at all," the fat man said while rubbing the back of his head with a silly smile. "And that mace you are carrying, is it just a decoration?" Rodman shouted, pointing at the huge, terrifying stick on Beb's shoulder. Beb turned his head in confusion and gave a surprised cry. "Ah, sorry, how could I forget it?" I don't know whether he was saying sorry to the stick or to Lieutenant General Rodman. Then he took the mace from his shoulder and put it on the ground. The moment the stick fell to the ground, a big hole was immediately created on the ground. You can imagine how heavy this thing must be. "This is too heavy. Is this something a normal human could pick up? How could I forget something so heavy when I am carrying it on my back? Are you an idiot? Who would believe such a thing?" The surrounding Navy were so shocked by this scene that they screamed non-stop. Lieutenant General Rodman was sweating profusely. Where on earth did this monster suddenly appear from? He has not used any weapon. Is he looking down on me? Or is he deliberately hiding his strength? If you say that he is hiding his strength or forgetting something, that too lame. So, he really looks down on me, fatty. So you have been looking down on me from the beginning, right? Rodman cursed with his eyes wide open. "I am a Vice Admiral of the Navy headquarters. Why do you look down on me? I am going to kill you." Rodman became angrier and angrier as he thought about it. Since he became a lieutenant general, he had never been looked down upon like this. He immediately rushed forward again in a rage. Seeing Rodman rushing towards him again, Beb did not retreat but instead took a step forward and swung the stick at him. This time there was no evenly matched fist collision. The moment the 2 men came into contact, a huge black shadow flew backwards at a speed faster than when it came, and smashed directly into the warship docked at the dock. Lieutenant General Rodman, go check on the boat. The power of this attack once again refreshed the naval soldiers' cognition. They had never thought that the Vice Admiral could be defeated so easily. They couldn't help but shout in horror. A naval colonel used his razor blade and rushed into the cabin at the fastest speed. Only then did they see the extremely miserable Lieutenant General Rodman. I saw that he had recovered to his normal state at this time, but his arms were broken and the broken bones protruded from his flesh. His chest was severely collapsed, and blood kept pouring out of his mouth. It seemed that he was breathing in less than he was breathing out. Report to Headquarters, Rodman said with difficulty, using his weak breath. With every word he spoke, large mouthfuls of blood gushed out of his mouth. I can't hear clearly what you said, Lieutenant General Rodman. You must hold on. I will call the medic over right away, the colonel cried sadly. Hurry, report to the Navy headquarters, Rodman repeated with his last breath. This is the Vice Admiral of the Marine headquarters, not some random trash. Lucci's pupils contracted and he couldn't retract them for a long time. He was beaten away. The other members of CP9 opened their mouths wide and could not close them for a long time. Bibu is being too reckless. Will that guy be beaten to death with a stick? Misita complained in a low voice. It doesn't matter. This was part of the plan. Let's get rid of the remaining people as soon as possible, Jem said casually. Hee. In that case, I am going to let go and have a good fight, Nikita chuckled, covering her mouth. Go ahead, Jem said in a deep voice. As soon as the voice fell, Michita disappeared instantly. After reducing her body weight to 1 kilogram while moving, her speed was so fast that it seemed like teleportation. Just as she was about to come into contact with the enemy, her weight suddenly increased, and the attack she released was extremely destructive. It is like a high-speed bullet that suddenly turns into a cannonball when it contacts the target. The destructive power can be imagined. The Navy officers present could only vaguely see a figure flashing, while their comrades were flying backwards one after another. None of the people who were attacked were able to get up. In order to avoid accidentally hurting CP9 and others, Jem also chose close combat. Each of his attacks exploded on the Marines like a cannonball, and the crowd was immediately filled with smoke. At this time, Beb also joined in the harvest of the Navy. With the three men tacit cooperation, hundreds of Navy soldiers fell in large numbers, like 3 hungry wolves rushing into the flock of sheep. What colonel? What major general? They are no match for me at all. Before long, there were only 3 of them standing in the field. Most of the sailors lost their lives on the spot, leaving only a few stronger ones, who also had broken bones and tendons and could only lie on the ground groaning. The expressions of the CP9 members at this moment have changed from shock to numbness. Rob Lucci, and the others from CP9, on behalf of my boss, I solemnly invite you all and hope that you can consider joining us. Jem looked at the CP9 members one by one and said with a serious expression, What organization do you belong to? Luffy asked in a deep voice. We are from the Baroque Workshop. Baroque Works. Rob Lucci was shocked. Even when he learned that the Straw Hat Pirates had attacked Judicial Island, he was not so surprised. You guys hit it really well. If it had been 10 days ago, Rob Lucci would never have imagined that he would end up like this one day. He would never have imagined that just when he was about to die, a small bounty hunter organization with little reputation in the Grand Line would have such a powerful force. He easily defeated the elite team led by a vice admiral and 2 major admirals of the headquarters of the Navy, and became his savior. Whether to join or not, I have to meet your boss before deciding. After a long silence, Lucci looked at his wounded companions one by one and spoke slowly. Of course it no problem, but you will have to take care of them, Jem said, pointing at the remaining sailors who were lying on the ground and still groaning. After a moment of silence, Lucci picked up a saber from his side, supported himself and struggled to stand up. Lucci, have you really thought it through? Kaku shouted anxiously upon seeing this. If we do this, there's really no turning back, Gabra said with a struggling look on his face. Ever since we lost to the Straw Hat Pirates, there's no place for us there anymore, right? Lucci said in a low voice, lowering his head. But that enough. Kaku tried to persuade him but was stopped by Lucci. Please help open their sea-stone handcuffs, Lucci said to Jem and others. Jem raised his chin at Beb, motioning him to come over and help. The shackles that bound the few people were quickly opened. They stood up with difficulty and looked at Rob Lucci, the backbone, in silence. Those who are still willing to follow me, pick up the knife on the ground. If you don't want to, you can leave. I don't blame him. When Lucci said this, his tone was extremely calm. but his heart felt like it was being tightly grasped by a hand. Even a pigeon can develop a deep bond with him after being with him day and night for many years, let alone these flesh and blood people. Bruno was the first to pick up the knife on the ground without hesitation, followed by Owl. After a brief struggle, Khalifa also bent down. Forget it, forget it. In our line of work, killing anyone doesn't matter. What the difference between killing pirates and killing Navy? Gabra sighed and finally gave in. There was only one Cuckoo left on the field, and everyone was looking at him eagerly. Lucci, I hope you will not forget your original intention to uphold justice. Even if it is dark justice, I, Cuckoo, will follow closely. If you change your mind one day, I will turn around and leave without hesitation. After Cuckoo finished speaking, he kicked a corpse on the ground away and picked up his sword. Thank you everyone, Lucci said. Then he stabbed the knife in his hand straight into the left chest of a seriously injured Navy man. Seeing this, everyone followed suit and silently looked for the Navy soldiers who were still alive to finish off the enemy. The atmosphere was so heavy that it was hard to breathe. CP9, and you sneaky guys. I have already reported the situation here to Marshal Sengoku. The world government and the Navy will never let you go. Never. The naval colonel, who was seriously injured and unable to move, was scolding the people present in a miserable voice. His bloodshot red eyes were like those of a ghost, and his eyes were full of hatred as he looked at them. Even if we don't kill you, the world government won't let us go. Lucci swung the knife into his heart expressionlessly, turned the handle around, and then walked towards the next person. More than 10 minutes later, Bruno, who was standing on the bow of the warship, nodded to Lucci, indicating that the ship had been cleaned. Just as you wished. There is no one left alive here, Luffy said to Jem. As expected of an agent trained by the world government, he acts cleanly and efficiently without any drag. Jem clapped his hands lightly. Where your boss? Let go out to sea. The boss just left by boat not long ago, so he should be not far from here, Jem said, pointing at the pirate ship left behind by the Candy Pirates. How did he get out to sea? It was clear that this place was surrounded by the Navy just now, Lucci asked with a frown. Don't you know there is a small pier at the other end of this island? But the boss must have destroyed it when he left. Jem looked at him strangely. Lucci's face suddenly turned dark and countless curse words burst out of his mind. If he knew there was another dock, he would have slipped away with his men long ago. The CP9 members supported each other and boarded the Candy Pirates ship. They were all seriously injured, so the task of driving the ship could only be done by Jem and the other two. Fortunately, the boat is not big and it is not difficult to drive. They had already agreed on a meeting place, so they just had to go around to the dock at the other end and drive in one direction. After sailing about 60 or 70 nautical miles, Misada, who was standing on the observation deck, discovered that the ship they had taken was anchored in the middle of the sea, so they sped up to catch up. The two boats were side by side, and Jem shouted to the crew on the other side to connect the two boats with a gangplank. Because the Candy Pirates ship was lower, Lucci and the others had to climb up a steep slope with great effort. Michita jumped up impatiently. Boss, we are back. Thank you for your hard work. Come over and have something to eat. A low and soft voice came from the boat. Lucci listened carefully and found that the voice was unfamiliar. Who could it be? Lucci's curiosity grew stronger. It was just a short springboard, but Lucci endured the severe pain and used all his strength to reach the top. Casting his eyes onto the deck, a man with a shiny slicked back hair and a cigar in his mouth was sitting relaxed in a rocking chair, looking at him. On his face. Lucci stopped suddenly and his whole body was shaking. A bounty of 81 million Baileys appeared in his mind. Lucci, seeing Lucci stop moving forward, Khalifa, who was following behind, couldn't help but ask in confusion. When Lucci heard the sound, he woke up and stepped onto the deck. This scene happened to every CP9 member who boarded the deck. As spies trained by the world government, the appearances of the 7 warlords of the sea are like engraved in their minds with a knife and cannot be forgotten at all. Crocodile, why him? This is the question that lingers in everyone's mind. Hello everyone, fellow elites of CP9, Crocodile chuckled and stood up to welcome them. Several people stood in a row, looking at the man opposite them cautiously. Crocodile, Why do you have to wade into this muddy water of ours instead of being one of the Shichibukai? Rob Lucci asked indifferently. I am just enthusiastically inviting a group of elites to join my team. How can that be considered muddying the waters? Crocodile spread his hands in confusion. Humphrey, you are not unaware of what we mean to the world government, right? Do you have the strength to go against the world government? Lucci snorted coldly. What do you think of the strength of the three people around me? Crocodile did not directly answer Lucci's question, but pointed at Jem and the others and said, I admit that they are very powerful. They have reached the level of elite vice admirals in the Navy. Ordinary vice admirals are no match for them. But that all, apart from the world government. There are many people with such strength in the Navy alone, Lucci said frankly. If I tell you that their strength was created by me personally, what would you think? Crocodile asked calmly after hearing this. Hearing this word, Lucci couldn't help but frowned. That right, it's the kind of thing that is created from scratch, allowing an ordinary person who is powerless to have superhuman strength without any training. Crocodile gestured with his hands and said, I am afraid only children would believe such things, Lucci said with a sigh. To be honest, he was very disappointed with what Crocodile had said and done so far. He thought he could reach a new shore, but unexpectedly, what lay before him was a small broken sampan. Don't believe it that normal, anyone else would think what I said was a joke, Crocodile said with a chuckle. I know the belief you hold in your hearts, Dark Justice, right? But relying on your mediocre skills, it is undoubtedly just a pipe dream. What did you say? You are just a Shichibukai? Stop talking nonsense to us here. Gabra yelled at Crocodile as if his tail was stepped on. Rob Lucci? In your previous confrontation with the Vice Admiral, did you find that you were still lacking something? Crocodile didn't care about Gabra's offense at all and continued to ask Lucci. Hockey. I lack the hockey of armament, Lucci said firmly as he recalled the feeling of powerlessness when facing Rodman. Is that all? You must also know that there are two kinds of domineering in the world. Observation hockey and conqueror hockey. Even the ability of devil fruits can be awakened. Do you want it? I can satisfy you all. Crocodile stretched out his hand to Lucci, his words full of temptation. If there is nothing else, please excuse us. Lucci shook his head helplessly. He didn't expect that the 7 warlords of the sea would treat them as fools again and again. It really a headache. Crocodile face froze and he had to take his hand back. The soft approach doesn't work. So it looks like we have to resort to the hard approach, Crocodile said calmly. Upon hearing this, the CP9 members immediately felt as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Even though they knew they were no match for the enemy, they still got ready and prepared for battle. But even so, before their eyes could see clearly, Crocodile suddenly appeared in front of them and grabbed Lucci by the neck and lifted him up in his hand. Let Lucci go. Even though they were covered in wounds, they still attacked Crocodile desperately, trying to rescue their companions. Quack. Crocodile was not moved at all. He glared and a powerful aura suddenly burst out from him. The members of CP9 had just gone through a tough battle, and both their bodies and wills had reached critical points. Under the impact of Crocodile domineering aura, his eyes rolled back and he fell to the ground. Damn it! What did you do to them? Lucci was horrified and tried hard to squeeze out these words from his throat. So this is Conqueror Hockey, the power to defeat the enemy with just momentum. Crocodile tilted his head and looked at Lucci. Don't you believe that I have the ability to make others stronger? Today I will make you believe it, Crocodile said with a chuckle. Let go. I don't want to know at all. Lucci didn't know if the powerful man in front of him was crazy, and what unpredictable thing he would do to him next. An indescribable feeling of fear prompted him to struggle with all his strength. Armament hockey, strengthen, Crocodile said with a sudden serious expression. Lucci, who was still struggling, suddenly felt a warm current flowing from the other person's hand to his neck. Having already learned the skill of returning life, he knows every hair on his body like the back of his hand. At this moment, he clearly felt that his body was undergoing indescribable changes. His strength, stamina, and constitution were all becoming visibly stronger. There was also an unprecedented airflow surging regularly in his body. Crocodile saw that Lucci had given up struggling at this point, staring with eyes wide open and motionless. and knew that his goal had been achieved. So he let go and watched Lucci fall to the deck. However, at this moment, Lucci's mind was completely focused on his own body, and he had no idea what pain was. Is this what domineering is? Lucci stared at his hands blankly. As soon as he thought about it, a black aura immediately wrapped around them. How could this be possible? Lucci obtained the ability he had always dreamed of, but at this moment he looked like an idiot. He raised his head and looked at Crocodile with confusion, wanting to get an answer from him. Calm down. There are always things in this world that are beyond your understanding, aren't they? Crocodile raised the corners of his mouth slightly. Something that others may have to go through untold hardships to get is so easy for you. How can I stay calm? Lucci still found it hard to accept. How about joining us? Crocodile invited again. I want to know, what exactly do you want to do with such a miraculous ability? Lucci finally woke up at this time and asked in a deep voice. The brutal and licentious celestial dragons, the world government that is their accomplice, and the pirates who are disrupting the world order. Countries that are able to pay heavenly gold and join the world government can receive naval protection. The people in those poor countries can only struggle and lose their homes under the repeated attacks of pirates and the navy. Tragedy is happening every moment. Do you think such a world is normal? Crocodile asked again in a calm tone. So what if it abnormal? The world government is too powerful. No one can change this situation, Lucci said indifferently. I can. What did you say? Lucci widened his eyes and looked at Crocodile in shock. I said, I can change the world, Crocodile replied again. Yes, with your ability, it might be possible. What then? After defeating them, becoming the new world nobles, there seems to be no difference in essence. Lucci shook his head and said, it's time for the nobility and the privileged class to exit the stage of history. I want to create a world where everyone is born equal. But this road is destined to be filled with blood and killing. I need a sharp blade hidden in the darkness to cut a deep gash in this rotten world and let the dirty blood flow out continuously, Crocodile said in a cruel tone. Alas, this is consistent with my belief. I really can't find any reason to reject you anymore. Lucci closed his eyes and sighed. But there is one condition. You have to treat them equally. Lucci pointed at the few people who were still unconscious. This was all part of the plan, Crocodile said as he extended his hand to Lucci, who was sitting on the ground. Lucci was stunned for a moment. Then he held Crocodile's hand and used the force to stand up. By the way, it was you who revealed our whereabouts in Santa Pobla, right, boss? Lucci suddenly asked. Yes, not only that, but some of the statements are slightly exaggerated, Crocodile said calmly. What about Spandam? Was he also killed by your people? If you think so, there's nothing wrong with that, Crocodile replied after thinking for a moment. After hearing this, Lucci fell silent. This new boss really did whatever it took to do something. In order to subdue this group of people, the layout should have been made before the Battle of Judicial Island, and then their retreat routes were blocked step by step, leaving them with no choice. From this perspective, the intelligence capabilities of Baroque orcs are a bit scary. What puzzled Lucci was how did Crocodile know in advance that CP9 would definitely be defeated by the Straw Hat Pirates? Lucci, are you okay? Kiko was the first to wake up from his coma and asked with concern. Don't worry, I am fine, Lucci said. Then you guys should have come to an agreement, right? Smart Cuckoo saw the clue immediately when he saw Crocodile sitting back in the rocking chair with a relaxed look on his face. I will announce it together when they wake up. Lucci nodded. Cuckoo had no choice but to quietly take out his double swords and wipe them. Crocodile then called out the doctor on board to treat the two men. A few minutes later, the rest of the people woke up one after another, struggling to support their bodies and surrounding Lucci. From today on, we join the Baroque workshop. The days ahead will be even more cruel and bloody than before. But what different from before is that this time if we can break through the darkness, we can see the light. Lucci's tone was calm, but everyone felt heavy in their heart after hearing it. Lucci, aren't you afraid of scaring them by saying this? Crocodile also came to Lucci's side and said with some reproach. Sorry, I forgot to tell you that Mr. Crocodile will be our boss from now on, and we will obey his orders directly. Lucci spread out his palm and pointed at Crocodile standing aside. Boss, everyone said in unison. but it didn't sound very energetic. Everyone can rest assured. I will give you enough power later, for enemies with top strength. The company will also send out stronger forces to deal with them. We will not let you fight against them with your own strength. Baroque Works is different from the world government. It is a humane organization. You can even say it is a big family. You can slowly feel this for yourself later to see if I am deceiving you. The kitchen has prepared a sumptuous meal. Everyone can replenish their energy first. Crocodile saw that they were in a bad mood and could only try his best to comfort them. Port of Santa Pobla. Okeanu stood on the shore with a livid face. The tragic scene before him was like the Azura hell. The ground was littered with corpses of Navy soldiers, and the blood had completely dyed the ground of the port red. He felt as if a piece of flesh had been dug out of his heart, and roared with bloodshot eyes, "Who did it? Find out for me. Catch all the nearby residents and interrogate them to find witnesses." The Navy soldiers carefully collected the bodies of their comrades with grief-stricken expressions, and many of them couldn't help crying. Not long after, a young man was brought over by two Navy men, holding their arms. "General Sakaski," this man said, "he saw what happened here. Tell me everything you saw exactly." Okeanu grabbed the young man collar and pulled him in front of him, asking with suppressed anger. There were three perpetrators: a young blonde woman, a man with an afro wearing a brown leather jacket, and a fat man who was 2 heads taller than you and dressed in green. They all had their backs to me, so I couldn't see what they looked like. Oh, by the way, that fat guy is carrying a mace that thicker than my waist. At first the Marines were here and fighting with a few guys right there in front. I know those people. They have been performing acrobatics in the city to make money these days. Then the 3 men came. The fat man started the fight first and defeated the 2 men dressed as officers one after another. Then the man and the woman rushed into the crowd, and the 3 of them started attacking the Navy together. They were too powerful. The Navy was no match at all and was defeated one after another. Finally, the last few people from the circus took their knives and stabbed the Marine who was lying on the ground but not dead yet. Although the young man looked very frightened, he still trembled and told everything he had seen. After hearing this, Okeanu let go of the young man and threw him to the ground. "I will tear these bastards from CP9 into pieces," Okeanu said viciously with red eyes. Half of his body turned into magma due to anger and ignited with flames. "Take him back, find someone to draw the portraits of those 3 people, and issue a bounty." "So, what is our next mission?" asked Lucci, who was sitting next to Crocodile in the restaurant on the ship. "No rush. You should rest for a while and heal your body completely. I am having someone build a secret base in the desert. I will take you there after it is built," Crocodile said calmly. "Brew brew brew, brew brew brew." Crocodile Den Mushi suddenly rang. "Hello." Crocodile answered the phone, not avoiding the new members of CP9 around him. "Zero-chan, help us. Enel and I were ambushed and kidnapped." There was a crying voice coming from the other end of the line. The tone was clearly that of Bentham, but he sounded like a child. "Are you the person behind these 2 little devils?" The voice on the other end of the phone suddenly turned into that of an old man with full energy. "Who are you?" Crocodile asked, suppressing his anger. "Ha, if you want to know, come to me. Otherwise the lives of these 2 guys will be in danger," the man said with a chuckle. "Location?" Crocodile gritted his teeth. "Sufin Island. I will only wait for you for 1 day." Good. After hanging up the phone, Crocodile looked extremely unhappy. Who is it with the current strength of Bentham and Enel? Even if it is a sneak attack, few people can easily take them down. Among this person, or this group of people, there is at least someone with the strength of a general. The purpose of capturing Bentham and Enel was just to lure him over. Crocodile thought hard for a long time but couldn't find any clues. "Jem, tell the helmsman to turn around and head for Sifin Island," Crocodile ordered, frowning. "Boss, is there anything we can help you with?" Lucci volunteered. "I am sorry to embarrass you. You have just joined and this is the first thing you have encountered," Crocodile said. "Just rest and recover from your injuries. If the sky collapses, I will be there to hold it up." Crocodile didn't waste any more brain power on this matter. After arriving at Sifin Island, the mystery would be solved naturally. He simply started chatting casually with the new members, and the atmosphere became relaxed and harmonious for a while. Sufan Island is a small deserted island not far from their location. After about 4 hours of sailing, the lookout shouted and reported that the destination had been found. Crocodile then went up on deck, took the telescope and began to observe the island. A few hundred meters away from the shore, there is a large standard warship, which is somewhat similar to the Navy ships, but also different. The ship is completely black and has more powerful firepower. The logo printed on the sail looks like an elephant skull. Crocodile couldn't help but frown when he saw this. What kind of force was this? He had no impression of it at all, because there was no dock. The ship would risk running aground if it got too close, so Crocodile ordered the ship to sail around the warships for a distance, and then took Jem and Beb to the island by moonwalking. After they entered the jungle, Beb's nose suddenly twitched rapidly, and then he pointed in a direction and said, "Boss, there is a smell of barbecue coming from over there. Let go and take a look." Crocodile took the lead and charged forward at an accelerated speed. Not long after, Crocodile stopped in front of an open space. There were a total of 5 people on the open space, including an old man with purple hair who looked extremely majestic. In his right hand there looked to be a strange mechanical creation, and in his left hand he was holding a huge skewer of meat which was spinning freely on the campfire. Next to him sat a pretty woman with dark blue hair and a ninja in colorful clothes. There were 2 other little boys who looked somewhat familiar, tied together back to back with iron chains. Crocodile took a closer look and realized that the one with long earlobes was none other than Enel, and who else could the kid with funny smoky makeup on his face be other than Bentham? He suddenly remembered that the purple-haired old man was the former admiral of the Navy, Zephyr Blackarm. Crocodile was once hunted by him, but fortunately he escaped. How did Bentham and Enel come into conflict with this extreme madman? If a fight breaks out later, the 2 of you should be careful of that blue-haired woman and don't let her hands touch your body. The old man's right hand is made of sea stone. Jem, you should also pay attention to it. Crocodile whispered. Since you are here, why don't you show up? Zephyr suddenly spoke as if he had realized something. General Zephyr. Crocodile walked out of the woods and showed himself in a bold manner. Boss, help! Bentham cried loudly. It finally here, Enel said, and from his expression, it can be seen that he was obviously relieved. Who are you? I can't remember it no matter how hard I try. Zephyr thought hard, holding his forehead. It doesn't matter what your name is. I remember that you are a pirate, right? Zephyr raised his head and said to Crocodile with a ferocious expression. When I was young and frivolous, I was a pirate for a while, but later I turned over a new leaf. Crocodile said lightly, hey, if you wanted to mend your ways, why would you send people to release lightning at the Navy over the Judicial Island? If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I might have believed your lies. Zephyr obviously didn't believe Crocodile words. What does this have to do with you? As far as I know, you are now in a hostile relationship with the Navy. Crocodile asked back. How can it not matter as long as they are pirates? They are my mortal enemies, Zephyr said hatefully. Teacher Zephyr, I remember now. This person is the current Shichibuchi, and is the counter to Crocodile. The blue-haired woman next to him suddenly reminded. 7 warlords of the sea. Zephyr face became even more ferocious when he heard that. What I hate most in my life is the Shichibukai. If we kill one of them, I am afraid the world government will be embarrassed too, right? Ha 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 ha. Zephyr laughed wildly. Crocodile sighed and said, it seems that this fight is inevitable. He then threw his coat on the floor, removed his tie, and unbuttoned a few buttons on his shirt. Jem, you deal with that ninja. You have too much destructive power. Try to stay away from Bentham and Enel. They are very vulnerable now. Understood? Leave that woman to Beb. Be careful with her hands. Good. After giving the instructions, Crocodile stomped his feet, and several walls of sand appeared on the ground, tightly surrounding Bentham and Enel to prevent them from being hurt by the aftermath of the battle. Crocodile is about to fight against the former admiral of the Navy. Even though he is old, his strength is not much worse than Iron Fist Garp. You have to know that this old man was able to sit on the position of admiral of the Navy without relying on the devil fruit. It is obvious how strong his physical skills and domineering are. Crocodile, Maybe you have managed to escape from my pursuit before, but today, luck will no longer favor you, Zephyr said viciously. Master Zephyr, have you ever heard a saying? Crocodile smiled faintly. What young and strong people are better than fists _ how dare you say such things in front of me? You really don't know how high the heavens are or how deep the earth is. Zephyr rushed over as he spoke. Crocodile was equally unwilling to be outdone and charged forward, swinging his fist filled with domineering aura. Bang! When the two fists collided, there was a loud bang. An extremely violent shockwave erupted instantly, and strong winds swept in all directions. The younger trees in the surrounding area were broken and blown away by the strong impact. The ground where the two were standing suddenly cracked and was even blown away. The other 4 people present hurriedly took advantage of the storm to escape, fearing that they would be affected by the battle between the two top powers. Boy, you do have some strength, Zephyr said viciously. Don't worry. This is just the beginning, Crocodile snapped. Crocodile directly used Ryo, and a layer of golden light wrapped around his dark fist, trying to destroy Zephyr's stone prosthesis from the inside. Although Zephyr is old, he is quick-eyed and quick-handed. How could he let Crocodile get his wish? He quickly changed to his left fist to attack, and his hand was also shining with golden light. This time, the two men's fists collided in the air. The loud noise also caused an even stronger shock wave, and the scene here suddenly became even more terrifying. Even the sand wall that Crocodile used to protect Bentham and Enel began to peel off piece by piece, revealing their little heads. After 2 evenly matched clashes, both of them were able to estimate the approximate strength of the other. Master Zephyr, if you don't have any other backup plan, I can only say sorry to you, Crocodile said calmly. Haha, I have fought countless powerful enemies in my life, and only a few people like Roger and Whitebeard dared to speak in front of me. You, why? Zephyr said with a sneer. Is it possible that I am one of these few people now? Crocodile mouth curled up slightly. How could I easily believe that such a possibility exists? He roared and rushed up again. This time, Crocodile did not punch randomly, facing Zephyr's fierce attack. He just twisted his body to dodge. After dozens of rounds, Zephyr didn't even touch the corner of Crocodile clothes. A mere observation hockey. Do you think I don't have it? Zephyr was so angry that his eyes widened and he used all his strength to use his observation hockey. The bullets in the prosthetic arm of my right hand were constantly and violently bombarded by lasers. The surrounding forests were immediately devastated, with trees falling down in large numbers in the explosion and large holes being blown out on the ground. But even so, Zephyr still couldn't attack Crocodile. No. Ordinary observation hockey can't achieve this level. You can foresee the future. Zephyr finally discovered the secret. As expected of a veteran who has fought many battles, he is very knowledgeable. Crocodile couldn't help but applaud. Boy, are you going to keep dodging like a mouse? Zephyr said angrily, panting. It's just a tactic to consume your physical strength. When I said before that a young man is better than a strong man, I didn't mean that your strength is weaker than mine. It's just that under the same conditions, the physical strength of the elderly is naturally much worse than that of us young people, except for that monster garp. Of course, Crocodile said with a relaxed expression. Crocodile words unexpectedly made Zephyr unable to refute for a moment, and his breathing became heavier. He hurriedly took out a spray can specially used to suppress asthma from his body, put it in his mouth and took a few deep puffs. You have to admit your age, Master Zephyr. Why don't we just shake hands and make peace? Let me take my people away, and we can all pretend nothing happened. Crocodile smiled kindly. Don't even think about it. Zephyr had no intention of reconciliation. After Crocodile finished speaking, he slowly stretched out his right hand, and then squeezed it hard. Not only was there a golden light on the fist wrapped in the color of armed forces, but also black and purple lightning kept coming out from between his fingers, making crackling sounds. I underestimated you before. I didn't expect that a mere Shichibukai could possess such power. The expression on Zephyr's face became serious for the first time. What do you think? Do you want to think about it again? Crocodile asked again. Even if I die, I will never compromise with a pirate in this life, Zephyr said in a voice full of hatred. In that case, let's decide the outcome with one strike, Crocodile said with some regret. Come on then. Zephyr rushed over again without hesitation. Crocodile didn't move much, just stood there, with his arms moving forward and backward as if he was drawing an invisible bow. Just as Zephyr was about to get close, he punched out heavily with multiple domineering fists. Zephyr mechanical arm crusher loaded with sea stone exploded into pieces under this blow. Zephyr body flew out like an arrow, knocking down more than a dozen towering trees behind him that required several people to hug before he finally stopped. He is an old man after all, wasn't it too harsh? Crocodile said with a sigh of relief. On the other two battlefields, Zephyr's two students, Ain and Binz, were also in a tough battle. Not enough, not enough, not enough. No matter how many plants there are, they will all be reduced to ashes when they encounter bombs. Jem laughed wildly. Logically speaking, for Binz, who possesses abundant superhuman fruits, this primeval forest is his absolute home ground. However, today his fruit ability was perfectly restrained by Jem. All I saw were vines and trees sweeping towards Jem. Whenever they came within a few meters of him, they would explode violently. No matter how many vines and trees there were, they would explode. This bastard, there's no way we can hurt him. Binz was hiding among the bushes, sweating profusely, his body exhausted. Come out, Mr. Ninja. Hiding around is not like being a real man. Jem walked along the ground, placing his hand on each tree for a few seconds. From time to time, he would take out a few small steel balls from his pocket and throw them into the bushes. Once the steel balls enter the bushes, they will explode immediately. Try one last time. If it doesn't work, retreat immediately. Binz observed Jem under his feet through the gaps between the leaves. He did not suspect Jem's unusual behavior of touching the trunk of each tree he approached. Everything grows this time. Binz has used all his strength. All the plants in the woods began to grow wildly, forming impenetrable wooden walls that pressed towards Jem. I caught you, Mr. Ninja. Seeing this, Jem was not panicked at all. Instead, he grinned at where Binz was. When Binz saw the other person smile, he had a bad feeling for some reason, but now the arrow was on the string and had to be shot, so he had to fight. Then, Binz saw the guy with the afro suddenly raise his hand and make a pistol gesture towards him, then say boom boom. Binz was stunned, not understanding why the other party would make such a sound at such a critical moment. Boom. However, the next second, the giant tree where he was hiding turned into a giant bomb and suddenly exploded. Binz was instantly engulfed in flames. After receiving instructions from Crocodile, Beb was extremely careful when facing the blue-haired girl, swinging a huge stick so loud that no water could get in. Damn, this fat guy is too powerful. He's simply a monster and I can't get close to him. Ain gritted his teeth and kept dodging and escaping with his agile body. The surrounding giant trees were occasionally hit by the mace and immediately broken in half. Any normal person can imagine what a miserable end it would be if a person's body was touched by this stick. However, the peach-colored flame that she shot out from her palm was easily dodged by the fat man in front of her. The opponent's size and flexibility are seriously disproportionate. I can't go on like this. I must find a way to get close to him. After dodging another powerful sweeping blow, Ain thought with a sweat on his forehead. Boom 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 boom. At this moment, a series of loud noises were heard not far from them. Countless broken stones, soil, branches and tree trunks poured down towards where they were. One of the large rocks, which was several meters square, actually came straight towards Peeboo back. Beb observation hockey sensed the threat from behind, so he turned around and punched the boulder. An opportunity. Ain was suddenly delighted and immediately used his shaving skill to dodge towards Beb. Beb's mace was already held in the air. When he sensed his opponent attack, he suddenly stabbed it hard at Ain. Ain was even more delighted when he saw this. He dodged the not-so-threatening attack by slightly turning sideways, then grabbed the mace, intending to use its power to get closer to Beb. However, when her slender palm touched the stick, she felt all the strength in her body drained in an instant. Ain was immediately horrified, his pupils contracted tightly, and the hairs on his body stood up, Sea stone. Then she felt a black shadow coming towards her. It a trap. After the last few words flashed through her mind, the whole world suddenly became dark. This kind of fight that requires carefulness is really troublesome and not fun at all. Beb looked at the motionless girl on the ground and let out a long breath. What should we do with her? It will be troublesome if she wakes up. Beb scratched his head and thought hard. After a moment, Beb bent down and took off the girl blue cloak, then tore the cloak into strips. Then he took the mace and tied Dane to the mace. I am such a genius. Beb put the mace back on his shoulder, praised himself. After a while, Crocodile and the others gathered together again. Not far away were Zephyr and the other two who were still unconscious. Bentham, still in the state of a child, jumped and shouted with anger on his face as he recounted the experience of being ambushed by Zephyr and his men. It turned out that the two of them were having dinner in a restaurant. Zephyr, who was also in the restaurant, saw them and insisted that they were pirates. How could Bentham and Enel accept such groundless accusations? So they started arguing with each other. While the blue-haired woman was pretending to persuade them, she took the opportunity to touch the bodies of the two with her ability. The two people who turned into children were no match for these people and were easily caught and taken away. Later, it was discovered that there was someone behind the two of them, so they called Crocodile to lure them over. Crocodile couldn't help laughing when he saw Bentham's funny look. The child version of Enel looks unhappy, and he looks even cuter as he sits cross-legged with his arms folded and sulking. In this world, the abilities of devil fruits are varied. In the future, try not to let strangers touch your body. I know there a girl under Da Flamingo, and her abilities are terrifying. Once touched by her hands, the body will change into the shape of the toy she imagines. After becoming a toy, all memories of knowing this person will be erased, as if he had never existed in this world. And she can also make a unilateral contract with the toy, and her life will be completely controlled by it. After this lesson, they will probably be extra careful when strangers approach them again. Crocodile was afraid that their memory was not deep enough, so he also popularized the horror of the childish fruit to them. Isn't this too horrible? Bentham squeezed his cheeks with both hands and shouted in fear. However, if I can touch her face, wouldn't I also be able to gain such a terrifying ability? Bentham suddenly had an idea. I advise you not to do this. If the other party touches you first, all of us will forget your existence, unless. Crocodile shook his head and quickly dismissed this extremely risky idea. Unless what? Bentham asked curiously. No, nothing. Crocodile originally wanted to say that unless the great god Usopp came out to subdue Sucrose. But this was a bit too shocking. Cough cough cough, huff. Huff. Just then, Zephyr woke up with a cough. The old man's lungs sounded like an old bellows as he breathed rapidly. Zephyr struggled to take out the small bottle of asthma suppressant from his body again. After taking a few deep breaths, his breathing gradually became smoother. Seeing that the two students were tied to a mace back to back and were not in any serious trouble, Zephyr frowned and sat up and slowly said, "Pirates, why don't you kill us?" How many times do I have to tell you that we are not pirates in this situation? Why should I lie to you? Crocodile shook his head helplessly. Well, what you said does make some sense. It was I who was too reckless this time. The stubborn old man finally changed his attitude towards Crocodile and others, but he did not express the slightest apology for the previous misunderstanding. According to the previous system, our organization can be considered a bounty hunter guild. But now, times have changed. We no longer need to catch pirates and collect rewards from the Navy. Crocodile explained patiently. That great. Why don't you stick with it? Zephyr asked somewhat unhappily. Because now, we will directly execute pirates who commit serious crimes. Those with less serious crimes will also be sentenced to labor reform, Crocodile said in a flat tone. Upon hearing this, Zephyr couldn't help but look Crocodile up and down several times, which made Crocodile feel uncomfortable. I really misjudged you this time. I didn't expect that a little kid like you would do things that are really to my liking. Zephyr couldn't help but praise. You have missed a lot of things, Crocodile quipped with a chuckle. HMPH, why are you so proud, little brat? Killing pirates is indeed commendable, But your method is always too slow, Zephyr said with a cold snort. Too slow. Crocodile wondered. That right. We kill one ship today, a few tomorrow. Before we get rid of the old ones, new ones will go out to sea again. In this case, there are simply endless pirates in this world, and it is impossible to kill them all. I now have a permanent solution that can get rid of them all at once, Zephyr said in a deep voice. Hearing this, Crocodile immediately thought of the old man crazy plan in the movie, which was to use an explosive with a power comparable to that of a nuclear bomb to blow up the entire new world. You don't want to blow them all up, do you? Crocodile said with a cold sweat. How do you know? Zephyr asked in surprise. I just guessed, but it seems to be true. Haha, little kid. You have a very useful brain. Zephyr laughed. I am not afraid to let you know that the world government scientists have developed an extremely powerful explosive that can easily destroy an island. I plan to grab these bombs and blow up all the pirates in the new world. No matter what pirates or 4 emperors, they will all be reduced to ashes by me, Zephyr said cruelly. What an astonishing plan, Crocodile said in false admiration. What I was thinking about in my mind was how to convince this old man to give up blowing up the new world and join his army. After all, blowing up the new world was not in his interest in the first place. If this old man really succeeds, once the navy is no longer restrained by the 4 emperors, they can free up their hands to eliminate all those who are hostile to them. By then, even Crocodile can only lie dormant with its tail between its legs, waiting for a new opportunity. Another point is that Crocodile is extremely short of generals, or even none at all. In the future, he will definitely have his own naval fleet. If it is all commanded by his thugs, they will just rush forward when they encounter the enemy. Then his level can only be said to be at the same level as pirates. Moreover, Zephyr's ability to teach students is simply unparalleled in the world. It can be said that most of the current middle and high-level naval officers were basically taught by him. This person's experience and knowledge are as valuable to Crocodile as an emperor-level fighter. But are you sure that there will be no pirates in the world if this happens? Crocodile asked back. Why not when the fame, status and treasure that pirates pursue are all gone? Who would still do such a hopeless thing? The old man glared, full of confidence in his plan. Alas, as a veteran of the Navy, you don't naively think that the root cause of the existence of pirates is just these things, right? Crocodile sighed and shook his head. What else? Zephyr asked nonchalantly. Isn't it that the reason pirates exist is fundamentally because the world is already terminally ill? Would a person who has enough food to eat, warm clothes to wear, and a happy family choose to live a life on the edge of a knife? It like a person with sores all over his body, maggots will come out of his body. If you don't dig out the rotten meat, maggots will still appear. It just cleaning the maggots away. As long as they're rotten meat, the maggots will continue to grow. If your plan succeeds, it will indeed be able to eliminate most of the world pirates. But, can you guarantee that there won't be a mountain pirate king or a sky pirate king in the future? Crocodile gave an easy-to-understand example, and it was impossible for Zephyr not to understand what he meant. Sure enough, after listening to this, Zephyr lowered his head and fell into a long silence. I understand the principles you mentioned. My lifelong wish is to eliminate as many pirates as possible. It really beyond my ability to accomplish such a huge feat as changing the world, Zephyr said dejectedly. If I say that I can not only fulfill your long-cherished wish, but also bring about earth-shaking changes in the world, will you lend me a helping hand? Old man Crocodile said in high spirits, the smile on his face revealing an indescribable confidence. Zephyr looked at Crocodile in a trance for a moment. He had only seen this kind of strong self-confidence that came from the bones in Roger and Garp when they were young. But then he shook his head and said, I still say the same thing. Young people really don't know how high the sky is and how deep the earth is. The foundation they have accumulated over thousands of years is beyond your imagination. It is not easy to defeat them and change the world. Master Zephyr, you may not believe this, but what I have is incomparable to any person or force in this world. Don't rush to give me an answer. There is a city called Eden in Alabasta, which I built in just over a month. If you go there and see it for yourself, perhaps your mind will change. In addition, in the near future, a major event that will attract worldwide attention will occur. After that, you will understand the confidence behind my previous words. That good. I understand, Zephyr said. Crocodile, I don't know what choice Zephyr will make in the end, but after all,